Welcome to Rick's Corner, brought to you by Old School Labs, the brand I trust and the only one I put my name to. Use my code drasin12 on the link below.
Welcome to Rick's Corner. The man, the myth, the legend. Now on with the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Rick's Corner. I read all the comments that I get on YouTube and I try to answer as many as possible. I also get emails. And several have written to me saying, why don't you talk about the stories of pro wrestling when you got into it and how it's changed in the territories in the Los Angeles area up and down the coast of California and what it was like. So I thought it's probably a good idea because I never really got into it much, and it's so much different today than it was then. It's completely different business. I got into it in 1965. I was living in Bakersfield, and I made up my mind that I think I wanted to go into wrestling. Now this is a profession nobody did. It's like if you want to be a wrestler, you might as well just join the carnival, the circus, because that's what they thought of it. So I came down to the Olympic Auditorium. I met some wrestlers in Bakersfield at the YMCA. I was working out. They were working out. And they said, go talk to Mae Young. She trains a few people. Now, there's no school. It's not like today. She had a makeshift ring at the top of the Olympic Auditorium, very small ring. And so I knocked on her door, and she took me in, and she showed me some moves and slams and this and that. And she looked at me and thought, you got a really good body. I could probably make some money with you. I was entering some shows then, so I was in really good shape. So I ended up training with her 5 days a week for 6 months. I drove from Bakersfield, 120 miles, to LA and then back home again the same day, and then went to the gym and worked out. Those days I was paying $25 a class, and that's a lot of money. But I was also playing guitar in a rock band at night, so I was making money. So she finally decided to see if she could book me on the show, and she called in some of the guys from the office. There was Joel Strongbow, he was a promoter. Mr. Moto was one of the bookers, Buddy Killer Austin, Pedro Morales, and a couple of the office guys. They all had Hawaiian shirts on and khaki pants because that was the uniform of the day for the wrestlers. That's what they would wear. Khaki pants, Hawaiian shirts, and flip-flops. Don't ask me why. It's like an old guy's bowling league that you see in the Warriors movie, or the Wanderers. So they looked at me and they said, yeah, we can definitely put him on TV. He's good. So they booked me on a Wednesday night on Channel 5 with Buddy Killer Austin, who was a badass dude. And I thought, oh my God, I don't want to work with this guy. He's going to kill me. He's absolutely drunk half the time, and he's big, and he's just vicious, and he's stiff, and it's not going to be fun. So he locked up with me in the ring, where we were training, and it almost knocked me out. He hit me so hard in the back of the head. And he says, don't worry. He says, I don't do that in the show. We just do this, and then we loosen up. Anyway, I did my match. It came off good. It was on Channel 5. I enjoyed it. I went back to Bakersfield, and some guy at the TV station, friend of mine, had taped it, so I watched it. And it was kind of really a thrill seeing yourself on TV at the Olympic Auditorium wrestling for something that no one else could really do, and here you are doing it. So they started booking me, and this is how this works. You have a territory. You have the Los Angeles territory, and each promoter, they have different ones in different areas. They had Mike LaBelle here in LA. They had one in the Bay Area. They have a Vern Gagne in Minnesota. Different areas have different promotions. Well, it wasn't national, it was a local TV, and that's how they got their audience. So would you cut your promos on Channel 5, and then on Saturday you cut them on Channel 13, and you talked about the towns. For example, Monday night would be Ventura Fairgrounds. Come out Monday night and watch me wrestle so-and-so. It's going to be one of these matches. They're going to see a repeat and blah, 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 blah. So you had to really do the promo. Tuesday night, it was in San Diego. They got the television, so they knew we were all going to be there. Wednesday night was the Grand Olympic Auditorium, which was huge, and it went all over LA. The promos went all over. They also had the Spanish station, KMEX, Channel 34, I believe it was. Thursday night was in Bakersfield, my hometown, so I used to get all my friends to come out when I could get them out of the house. Friday night was the Olympic Auditorium again, the big show they call it. That's where you got paid a lot of money because it wasn't televised. Saturday was Channel 13. And that night, I believe it was San Bernardino. And then Sunday you were off, unless they had a spot show somewhere. So I would work 5, 6 nights a week. Every night I'd be booked somewhere. Have to drive, come home, drive, come home, drive, come home. And I worked with a lot of the same people over and over. I have a list here I put on my phone because they wanted to know who was in the territory at the time. And so I went back, and there was John Tolis, the Golden Greek, who was like one of the #1 guys who I did the bookings, and I always seemed to work with him for some reason. He liked me, but in the ring he would lead me and want me to do certain things I didn't really want to do. I want to do it my way too, but you had to listen. Freddie, the classy Freddie Blassie, who was an icon in wrestling, who died a few years ago. He put wrestling on the map along with Gorgeous George, because he just one of those guys that just had charisma and knew how to do it. Victor Rivera was the Latin champion. He was there all the time. Jack Armstrong, Alex Knight, Superstar Billy Graham, Rocky Johnson, that's The Rock's dad, Ivan Koloff, and Roddy Piper, and Gene LaBelle, just to name a few. Now, these guys, we all became friends because we worked together every night in some town, either with this guy or one of the other guys. We would switch off, but they would have you booked with your friends, and you would work with them. So when you'd come into the arena at night, you'd look on the board and you'd see your name and say, gee, okay, I'm working with Jack Armstrong tonight. You got to go 45 minutes, two out of 3, and you'd work your match out, talk about it a little bit, and then you go out and do it. Back then, you didn't really choreograph your show because you knew that one hold leads to another, to another, to another. It's like dancing. And when you got in the ring, you would just wrestle. And then you just exchange holds, and you go from one to the other. Sometimes you call them, sometimes you're not. But you'd go by the pulse of the audience. If the audience was really into it and you were being beat up by the heel, you kept going until you could make your comeback, and they'd go crazy. And this is how that worked. Some of these guys like Tolis and Billy Graham and Rocky Johnson and Piper, all this, we all trained at Gold's Gym together. So we would train in the mornings, and then at night we'd be on the shows. So we were kind of friends outside the wrestling business as well as in the business. And it made for a lot of fun because we all knew each other like really, really well. We lay on the beach together, and it was a camaraderie just like Gold's Gym had back in the 70s. Same sort of deal. And so wherever you went to wrestle, people knew you. Well, they didn't know you from television because it wasn't national, but they did know you from were the magazines, Wrestling Review and some of those. Wrestling Review and some of those magazines were big time because that's the only way you could find out about who's a wrestler and what area they're wrestling from and what's their name and what's their history and this and that. So people bought a lot of magazines. They'd bring someone in the town to wrestle, like Blackjack Mulligan. Maybe I never heard of him, but he's big in the East, and he comes in and he's already got a promo going, and they already know him from the magazines, so you come in as a big name. I went back to Minnesota and worked for Vern Gagne. He gave me a build-up coming in. I went to Montreal. He gave me a build-up coming in, so people were aware that I was coming, but they never really saw me on TV because it wasn't national. This is how that worked, and you got paid nightly, you know, depending on the size of the houses and depending on what you got paid. It could be anywhere from $30 to $50 to $75 to $150. Just depends on how big the house was. So you basically needed a second job with it, but you still were able to do what you wanted to do and hit the gym in the morning and lay on the beach because you had this income. Many of them have passed away since then, and it's too bad because they were a bunch of really good guys that really knew the art of wrestling. When I first got into it, I wasn't quite sure how to handle it because I've been trained well, but you don't know if the guys on the other end of the ring that they're trained like you are. So you don't know if they're going to be stiff with you. They don't know if you're going to hurt you. They don't know if you don't know if they think it's real or not. And people say, well, it's fake. Well, it's not fake. It's a predetermined finish, but you got to get from point A to point B. So you have to go through the motions of wrestling and put on a show to get to the finish of the match. Finish of the match doesn't mean much at all. It's just a crowd psychology. It's getting in there for 15, 20 minutes and working holds and not getting hurt and beat up, because sometimes it happens a lot. And you got to really guard yourself because it's a very physical sport. I can't say I regret any of it. I had fun being on the road. I met a lot of people all over the place, and then when I went to the South and wrestled in those cities there, I met even more people. And Oregon was fantastic. I met more, and it was almost like you're playing you're a rock star in a rock band because you meet everybody, and all these women are hanging out. And I came out of the dressing room one night, and I think it was Dothan, Alabama, this cute little blonde sitting in the stands, and there's nobody there. I said, I'm sorry, honey, but everybody's gone. Who are you waiting for? She said, I'm waiting for you. I said, really? Okay, let's go. So those things happened, and it was a lot of fun, and I don't regret. I made some good friends for life, and this is how wrestling worked. And then in the 80s, Vince McMahon Jr. took over, and he had Cyndi Lauper on TV with Hulk Hogan on Channel 4 to replace Saturday Night Live, and made it national. And when he went national with WWF, that's when it got big, and he had Hogan and all the guys on there, and then he went to WWF, and then he went to WWE. So the lower promoters around, like here and up north and around the States, had to fold their business because they couldn't compete with WWE. They couldn't get Hulk Hogan. They couldn't get the big names because they couldn't afford them. And that's really all the people want to see. Were those? I want to see those guys on national TV. Well, you can't get them. It says they're under contract and you can't get them, so you have to run smaller shows, and the smaller shows weren't doing well. And then over the 80s and 90s, after that had happened, you have these little shows in armories and little social halls around there. They draw about 50, 60 people, and you go broke. So that's what happened with wrestling, and that's where it is today because of the national exposure through WWE. And they're like, it's like the only bank in town, you know, compared to smaller banks in different areas. So I thought I'd bring that up. We really had a good time working those matches at night. It was like a nice guys' night out every night. It was always all of us, and then we'd go eat something afterwards, and then we'd hang out at the beach and work out at the gym in the morning. And it was a crazy lifestyle, but it was a fun lifestyle, and I can't imagine ever doing anything else in my life than what I've done already. So I just wanted to throw that around, and I thought you guys might find it interesting. So that's it for Rick's Corner today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care. Hope you enjoyed the video brought to you by Old School Labs. Use my discount code DRASIN12 on the link below at oldschoollabs.com. Hey everyone, now you can have the Gold's Gym logo drawn by me, the artist Rick Drasin, personalized and made out to you and signed by me to frame and put on your gym wall or wherever you see fit to do so. It's a piece of bodybuilding history. It will never be duplicated again. It's the largest selling icon t-shirt logo in the world, and I'm the guy that drew it, and I will draw it for you. Just go to my website, rickdrasin.com, and order there. You can pay through PayPal, and it'll be sent out right away. And be sure to watch Rick's Corner for all the videos on bodybuilding, nutrition, fitness, pro wrestling, and anything that suits your interests as far as getting physically fit and being the best you can be from the golden era of bodybuilding.
He's the equalizer, baby. See you next time.